You know what's strange? You've never said it out loud. But somewhere between washing dishes and lying in bed at night, you've had entire conversations with people who weren't even in the room. You've argued, explained, defended yourself, and even won. All inside your head. And if that sounds familiar, I don't know who needs to hear this. But what's happening in your mind is not random. It's not weird. And it's definitely not meaningless. Your brain is doing something incredibly specific. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what that is. You argue with people who aren't even there. Have you ever been completely alone, maybe driving or standing in a shower, and suddenly you're in the middle of an argument? Not a real one. An imaginary one. You're saying exactly what you should have said. You're making your point clearly. The other person is finally understanding you. And then you snap back to reality and realize none of it happened. Psychologists call this a form of mental simulation. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's actually trying to resolve something that felt unfinished. When a conversation ends without closure, your mind keeps it open. It keeps running the scenario because emotionally, it hasn't been processed yet. So your brain creates a space where you can finish it. The problem is, the other person never actually hears any of it. And that unresolved feeling? It stays. You rehearse conversations before they happen. Think about the last time you had to say something important to someone. Maybe it was asking for something, confronting someone, or delivering difficult news. Chances are, before you said a single word in real life, you already had that conversation at least 3 times in your head. You planned what you would say. You predicted how they would respond. You prepared your follow-up. This is called anticipatory mental rehearsal. And research shows it's actually useful up to a point. Athletes do it. Surgeons do it. Public speakers do it intentionally. But for many people, this rehearsal never stops. You rehearse conversations that may never happen. You prepare responses to questions nobody has asked. And the more you rehearse, the more anxious you become, because your brain starts treating the imagined version of the conversation as if it's already a real threat. You replay old situations with better responses. There's a specific kind of mental pain that comes hours after a conversation ends. You're sitting quietly, and suddenly it hits you. That's what I should have said. Psychologists actually have a French term for this. L'esprit de l'escalier. It means the spirit of the staircase. The perfect comeback that arrives too late. But for many people, this doesn't stop at one thought. The mind goes back and replays the entire situation. Except this time, you say the right thing. You handle it better. You come out looking exactly the way you wished you had. This replay mechanism is your brain's way of learning. It's trying to update your social response system for next time. The issue is when it becomes a loop. When you're replaying something from 3 years ago at 2 in the morning, your brain is no longer learning. It's stuck. You imagine how people will react before you say anything. Before you send that message, you've already imagined 3 different ways the person might respond. Before you walk into that room, you've already calculated how people will look at you. Before you share your opinion, you've already pictured someone dismissing it. This is called social anticipation, and it's deeply connected to how much your brain values belonging and acceptance. The mind constantly runs predictions about social outcomes. For most people, this happens quietly in the background, but for some, it becomes the main event. Every action gets filtered through an imaginary audience first, and often, that imaginary audience is far harsher than any real person would ever be. You end up editing yourself, holding back, staying quiet, all based on reactions that exist only in your imagination. You create entire storylines from a single what if. It starts small. A single thought. What if I had taken that job? What if I had said yes? What if things had gone differently? And within minutes, your mind has built an entire alternate life around that one question. You can see it clearly. The different version of events. The different version of yourself. The different outcomes. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, and it serves a real purpose. It helps humans learn from the past and make better decisions in the future. But it has a shadow side. When counterfactual thinking becomes frequent, it pulls your attention away from the present and places it inside a reality that never existed. And the more vivid and detailed that alternate reality becomes, the more dissatisfying your actual life can start to feel. You practice apologies in your mind for things you haven't done yet. This one is less talked about, but incredibly common. You haven't done anything wrong yet, but your mind is already preparing an apology. You're rehearsing how you'll explain yourself, how you'll make it right, how you'll handle the fallout for something that hasn't even happened. This is connected to what psychologists call anticipatory guilt. Your brain is so focused on avoiding damage to your relationships that it starts preparing for mistakes before they occur. On the surface, it looks like responsibility, but underneath, it's often anxiety wearing the mask of conscientiousness. You're not preparing because you're irresponsible. You're preparing because the idea of disappointing someone feels unbearable, and your brain would rather rehearse the worst case than be caught off guard by it. You mentally rewrite painful memories with better endings. Some memories don't just replay. They get edited. You go back to a moment that hurt, and your imagination quietly rewrites it. This time, someone says sorry. This time, you're not left alone. This time, it ends the way it should have. Psychologists refer to this as memory reconsolidation through imagination. Your brain is attempting to heal something by creating a version of events that feels safer. It's a coping mechanism. And in some therapeutic settings, guided versions of this process are actually used to help people process trauma. But when it happens automatically and repeatedly, it can become a way of avoiding the grief of what actually happened. Because rewriting the memory feels better than accepting the real ending. You imagine scenarios where finally someone understands you. Out of everything on this list, this one might be the most quietly painful. You imagine a conversation where you don't have to explain yourself, where someone just gets it, where you say how you feel, and instead of being dismissed or misunderstood, the other person looks at you and says, I know. I see you. I understand. This imaginary scenario points to something real, a need that isn't being fully met. Psychologists link this to the fundamental human need for attunement, the feeling of being truly seen by another person. When that need goes unmet in real relationships, the mind creates it in imagination. And while that imaginary relief is real in the moment, it can quietly reduce the motivation to seek that connection in actual relationships. Because the imagination offers it without the risk of rejection. And here's what all 8 of these patterns have in common. They aren't signs that something is broken in you. They're signs that your mind is working hard, processing, rehearsing, protecting, healing. The question is never whether imagination is happening. The question is whether it's helping you move forward or keeping you standing still. Because the conversations that will actually change your life, they won't happen inside your head. They'll happen when you finally decide to have them out loud.